You ever wake up at 2 in the morning to the sound of your own engine roaring down the street, except you're still in bed? Yeah, that was me, shirtless, shoeless, standing in the dark with my heart pounding like I'd just gotten a wake-up call from a drill sergeant. I look out the window and I swear I thought I was dreaming my ATV, the one I'd spent months building from scrap and military surplus, was tearing down the road. And who's behind the wheel? None other than Karen, helmet of bleached hair, cell phone in one hand, screaming into the night like she's the star of some budget action flick. You know the type. HOA Karen, the woman who threatened to have my ATV towed because it disrupted the aesthetic harmony of our sacred little neighborhood. Now you'd think I'd be pissed, but honestly I grinned. Because that $85,000 Frankenstein of mine, that beast she thought she'd stolen, well, it was a biometric fortress on wheels. And Karen, she just locked herself inside a rolling prison cell and didn't even know it. I sprinted to the garage. Yeah, barefoot, half awake, just to confirm what I already suspected. The garage door was pried open, keypad hanging like a broken arm. The emergency override popped off with what looked like crowbar marks. I laughed not because it was funny, but because Karen always thought she was the main character. Nah, she was just the setup. I pulled out my phone, typed in the override, and fired up the ATV's internal cameras. There she was messing with the controls, tapping the screen, growing more frustrated by the second. With a couple more taps, I activated Lock Protocol 77. That meant every window, every door, every button froze up unless the system scanned a face it liked. Guess whose mug wasn't in the database, right? Karen was stuck and she didn't even know the half of it. Did I call the cops? Nope, not yet. See, Karen had spent the last 6 months playing sheriff, judge, and executioner in our little HOA drama club, finding me for everything from tire tracks to vehicle intimidation. She claimed to be on the extended safety committee, whatever that meant. Translation. She thought she ran the neighborhood, and she'd been eyeing that ATV since the day I rolled it out. This wasn't random. She wanted control over the one thing she couldn't touch until now. Back in the living room, I pulled up the GPS tracker. Karen was weaving all over the road, honking the bullhorn, actually yelling out the window at some poor cyclist, and improvising wild lies about being on a rescue mission. I couldn't make this up. I texted Ray, my old buddy, who helped me rig the facial recognition. Karen stole the beast. Cameras are live. Grab popcorn. He shot back, stream it. We'd set up an encrypted feed for wildlife, never thought we'd catch a wild Karen instead. So I patched in, switched on the speaker, and let the ATV itself announce unauthorized driver detected. Lockdown in progress. Karen froze. She spun, shouting, "Who said that?" The ATV didn't answer. Instead, it locked the steering in soft drift mode, just enough to keep moving, not enough to actually go anywhere or stop. She started mashing every button. Nothing. The screen kept looping unauthorized operator. Data upload in progress. That message wasn't for her, it was for Ray and me, and pretty soon for an audience. Ray whipped up a quick web page. Within 20 minutes, we had a couple hundred viewers, buddies from the service, nosy neighbors, anyone who'd ever had beef with Karen, all watching live as she yelled at my ATV like it owed her money. She tried to stop for gas, pulled into the station, tried to crawl out, pounded on the glass, screaming for help. The teenage attendant tapped on the window, saw her face pop up on the outside monitor, and just started recording. Caption underneath: stolen vehicle operator, under surveillance. Karen panicked, threw it in reverse, ran over a flower bed. Chat exploded. I just sat there sipping my coffee. Here's the thing, she had no clue what she'd stolen. It wasn't just voice and face ID. There were redundant batteries, blackout-proof data logs, and every action she took got uploaded straight to the cloud and law enforcement portals. I got on the speaker, did my best robotic voice, and said, "Miss Karen, security measures active. Please remain seated until law enforcement arrives." She about jumped out of her skin, smacked her head on the roll cage, started yelling at the dashboard, then finally just stared into the camera, her eyes wide as she realized this was all being broadcast. Back home, the neighborhood group chat was blowing up, memes, jokes, screenshots. Someone even wanted to stream it on their garage door for the cul-de-sac. Ray added a speedometer, blinking alerts every time Karen screamed, even a fake Karen Legal Fund donation button that just sent the money to a wildlife charity. She tried to call someone from her purse, but the ATV's signal jammer shut down all Wi-Fi and cell. She was alone with her tech-fueled nightmare. She started slamming buttons, clawing at the glove box, trying to crawl into a non-existent back seat. Her frustration peaked just as she drifted out of her control straight into the tail end of the local high school's 4th of July parade. Marching band flags, kids waving, and right in the middle, my combat ATV with Karen locked inside. The crowd actually clapped, thinking it was part of the act. The display flashed, celebrating freedom, tracking stolen vehicle live. Then Ray played a loop of her breaking into my garage. Somebody in the crowd recognized her. "Isn't that Karen from the HOA?" And the place erupted. She tried to duck, but there was nowhere to hide. Phones were everywhere. Live streams went viral. Hashtags started trending. She tried hairspray on the dash like it was pepper spray. Nothing. A woman in the crowd shouted, "Maybe read the manual." Karen in the sidewalk burst out laughing. I decided it was time for a final act. I patched my real voice into the ATV. "Karen, your location's been shared with local authorities. Your cooperation is appreciated." She spun around, shrieking, "You're watching me. This is illegal." I grinned, replied, "You have the right to remain silent and enjoy the parade." Ray nearly choked on his popcorn, added clown horns to the stream, even swapped the ATV icon for a circus tent. By now, the police had the evidence, garage break-in footage, the whole 9 yards. The plan was perfect. Once the parade ended, the ATV's lockdown would steer itself straight to the local precinct. But before it could finish its little tour, a news crew covering the parade caught up. Reporter knocked on the window. "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you part of this display?" Karen lost it, mouthing things through the glass, flailing like she was directing air traffic. The reporter shrugged and announced, "Some kind of performance art, possibly involving HOA reform." That line made the evening news. When she finally stumbled out of the ATV at the precinct, Karen tried to play the victim, claimed I'd kidnapped her, called it psychological torment. The cop looked at her, then at my military-rigged vehicle, and just deadpanned. "Ma'am, why are you in a vehicle reported stolen?" She pivoted, tried to say she was collecting community property. He radioed for confirmation, got a full digital evidence package, and led her inside. That's when I found the smoking gun, a binder she'd dropped under the seat full of homemade neighborhood enforcement plans, fake badges, and lists of residents she'd targeted for seizure of threat-level vehicles. My name, my ATV, my neighbor's dune buggy. She'd tried to turn the neighborhood into her own private police state. I sent the binder to the local news. By that afternoon, everyone had seen it, neighbors flooding the HOA's inbox with demands for her resignation. Turns out the actual HOA president hadn't authorized any of it. Karen had been calling rogue meetings, forging minutes, running her own private regime. She was suspended immediately, but by then it was too late. The community had united, laughing, swapping horror stories, painting Karen free zone signs, wrapping my ATV in digital camo, even naming a drink at the local bar after her, the Karen lockdown, served in a steel mug. Karen wasn't done. She sent me a cease and desist letter threatening civil action for psychological torment. My lawyer nearly spit out his coffee reading it. But it proved something: Karen wasn't defeated because she still believed she had authority. So I went for the knockout. Next HOA meeting, I brought footage, her break-in parade meltdown, police interrogation, edited with a running tally, 14 false claims of authority, each punctuated with circus music. The crowd roared. Karen tried to defend herself, called it performance art. The room laughed her off. She was removed from all HOA positions permanently. You'd think that would be the end. Not quite. She started filing bogus reports with the city trash bins too close to the curb, my dog unlicensed drones over her property, all traced to her. Another cease and desist, another round of lawyer letters. But I had the last laugh, set the ATV on patrol mode, slow-rolling Beethoven's Ode to Joy, past her house every night. Neighbors waved, kids cheered, someone even hung a flag. Long live the commander. Karen made one last desperate move, tried to break in again at midnight, screwdriver in hand. The ATV locked down. Cameras caught everything. Cops arrived within 10 minutes, charged her with attempted tampering. The video went viral again. By the time we got to court, the evidence was ironclad. She settled, lost all HOA rights for a decade, and moved out. The community threw an actual party at the next HOA meeting, made me technology advisor, gave the ATV a parade spot. Local kids painted signs, Karen Free Zone Neighborhood Watch Commander. The town changed, lighter, friendlier, freer. A month later, a security startup called wanted to license the ATV's tech for their next-gen vehicles. I took the deal not for the money, but for the sweet irony that Karen's parade meltdown was making neighborhoods safer everywhere. The ATV became a running joke. Ray programmed a Karen protocol where it would roast anyone unauthorized with lines like, "Nice try, but I'm smarter than you." People loved it. One evening, a neighbor's kid climbed inside, asked why the lady screamed so much. I told her, "Sometimes people think they can take what isn't theirs, but this car doesn't let bad people win." She patted the dash. "Good job, robot car." That night, I took one last loop around the block. No cameras, no circus. Just quiet streets, porch lights on, kids playing, people talking a real community. Not because of tech or lawsuits or viral justice, but because someone finally stood up to the neighborhood tyrant and showed everyone what happens when you refuse to be bullied into silence. The ATV was back in the garage, Karen was gone, and for the first time in years, the place actually felt like home. So what do you think? Was it justice or just karma on turbo mode? Drop your take in the comments. Let's hear how you'd handle a neighborhood Karen.